Hello and welcome back to another episode of MamaSoup Talks. And this week I'm joined by Jon from JL Bookkeeping. And Jon has been kind enough to join us the last couple of weeks to give us some amazing information about taxes and how it relates to parenting and issues that you may come across. And today we're going to be talking about taxes and teenagers. Hi, Jon, and welcome.
Morning.
So do you want to just sort of give everybody another idea of who you are and what you do?
My name is Jon. I am the owner and operator of JL Bookkeeping. We provide tax services all year, but obviously mostly in that March and April timeframe when everyone is scrambling, and I focus mostly on family and disability related claims.
Love it. You're such a nice addition to the MamaSoup Talks, because these are things that parents don't really ever. It's information that can be boring, but it's so important. So important.
Yes, it is.
But not that you're boring.
It's a very dry topic. I just try and make it palatable.
So teenagers and taxes.
Yes.
So I guess my first question about it is, at what age should teenagers start doing their own taxes?
So the answer to that is it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
The general rule of thumb for filing a return, and this goes for everybody, is you should, if you have any kind of income,
okay,
or if you want your credits. So like GST, Trillium, climate action incentive, you have to file a return to get those. But the first test on whether a return is really required is there taxable income?
Okay.
So the first thing that a parent should sit down and talk with their teen about is when they get their first pay stub.
Okay.
We're going right back to that very first pay stub, probably 2 weeks into their first job.
All right, excellent. That's because they're making taxable income.
It may not be taxable, but that's the time to talk to them about it.
Because I guess it depends on how much money they actually make, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a few things that come into consideration with teens 18 and under for taxes.
Okay.
That are a little bit different than for 18 and older. First off is that when you're under 18, you do not have to pay into CPP or EI.
Okay.
So if their employer is deducting CPP and EI for whatever reason, they need to file a return so they can get that money back. It's not going to be a huge amount of money, but it's money they should not have paid.
Okay, good to know.
The second thing to look at is their gross earnings. So their hourly rate times the number of hours they work before anything comes off. Everyone in Canada has what's called a personal exemption. It currently sits at about $13,000. Basically, you do not pay taxes on that amount of income. Everybody gets that kind of for free.
Okay.
So if they're making below that amount in a year, in a calendar year, and when they get their T4, there's an amount in the top rightmost box,
yes,
which is income tax deducted, and that their earnings are below that personal exemption, file a return, they'll get it back.
Okay, excellent. And why would it be important for kids to do their own taxes? I mean, you touched upon the Trillium benefit, the
Yep.
GST. Is there any other reasons why, if they're not making that 13,000, why it's important?
Yes,
Yeah.
because it affects their parents' GST, it affects their Trillium, it affects baby bonus.
So if the teenager is making money and files tax returns, then the baby bonus is going to go down?
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of people would disagree that that is the correct way to do things, but it is.
I mean, if the kid's making money, why are we shouldn't really need the baby bonus?
Yes, and that's the theory behind their income impacting your baby bonus. As they start to transition into the workplace, they can take on some of their own expenses, even if it's minimal, like even if they're buying themselves a few articles of clothing with their paychecks, or contributing towards like a Netflix bill, or
Paying
any
their
other
cell phone.
streaming, or contributing towards their cell phone. That's
Yeah.
an expense that gets transferred to them as opposed to being on the parent now.
And then the kid can also, then the teenager's in the sort of the system for all the other tax credits too.
Yes.
Okay.
Another one that really gets ignored for people starting to file returns early is building Rrsp contribution room.
Yeah.
That income, even though it's minimal, is going to build them that little bit of extra Rrsp room, which is something that if you can do, you should do.
Yes. Yeah.
Is
Yeah. That's
contribute
good
to an
advice.
Rrsp. There's just too many benefits to it.
Yeah.
But yes, the parent will receive a little bit less in the long run, but it sets the kid up to be in a really good tax situation for their adult life.
Okay. And also, it's a good thing to teach your kid to be responsible and fill out yearly tax returns. And
yes,
this is part of becoming an adult. So
yes, you have to pay taxes your entire adult life.
Yeah, you may as well get used to it.
You may as well get used to it.
So if a teen does their own tax return, can a parent still claim them as a dependent? You kind of answered that. Not really.
Yes. Dependent is based on the needs of the dependent as opposed to whether they file a return of their own or not.
Yeah.
If they don't have any amounts that they're going to be getting back, the income still has to be reported on the parent's return, even if the child isn't filing a return.
Yeah.
So that would be if they have a summer job, if they're getting CPP in relation to a disabled or deceased parent, that's all taxable income that has to be reported back on the parent's return.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know. What types of deductions are teenagers entitled to? So if the parent is claiming camps, obviously the teenager can't.
So childcare phases out around 15, 16.
Okay.
Anyways, because it's assumed that the child can be generally responsible for themselves.
Which anybody who knows teenagers, it's actually flipped.
Yes.
They need more.
But from a tax perspective, they are considered able to care for themselves.
Perfect.
There are no special deductions for teenagers. If they file the exact same return as an adult.
Okay. All right. Unless there's extenuating circumstances
like a disability.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so you already told us about how a teenager filing a tax return can impact a child tax credit. That's notable. And as you said, it's up for argument, but I kind of agree with that. Not that it matters what my opinion is, but.
And by the time all the math happens on their income,
Mhm.
it's not going to be a huge impact.
Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. How can parents support their teens to take their tax returns seriously? Like, I mean, for me and for I have teenagers, and for our kids, they do tax returns, they have jobs, they have
Yes.
always, but also their incentive is because they get money.
Yes. So the year a child turns 18, they can start collecting GST and Trillium and Climate Action and all those other fun credits. Before 18, it goes back to their parents.
Yeah.
There are the reasons to have your child file, even if there's no real formal obligation to. It can mess up your credits so badly if you don't report their income correctly, whether it's through your return or through a return of their own. And trying to repay money to CRA is a challenge.
So it's not just a moral obligation parents have here.
Correct.
There's actually a financial obligation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you don't want CRA coming back and saying, oh, we've paid you way too much baby bonus.
Yeah, no, you have to pay it
And
back.
having to repay it.
No.
You don't want that to happen.
No. Okay, that's some good advice right there.
Yeah.
And so like for someone to take it seriously, I think that would be a really good reason for a parent to take their teenager's tax return seriously. So, and when it's time for a teenager to do their first tax return, which is, you said, when they get their T4 or start thinking about it, what should they do first? Is a teenager capable of filing a return on their own now? Should they get someone like you to help them because they've never done it before?
I would say at the very least, until they're an adult, it should be professionally done.
Yeah.
I don't charge extra for preparing a return for a child if it's found they actually have to file one. I think it's an unnecessary burden on them. It's an unnecessary burden on their parents. It's just built into my base fee.
Okay.
But having a sit down, probably over Zoom, with someone who knows taxes, and even having a 20-minute crash course on what a tax return looks like, where the very basic information goes, is so important. And something I will always advocate to be taught in school.
Yes, it's a life skill. It should be.
It is a basic life skill.
Yeah.
I would rather see this taught than over some of the advanced calculus.
Yes, exactly.
It gets taught.
You know, and the thing to remember too is I know when I was a teenager filling out my first income tax returns, it was a lot simpler. It's so much harder to navigate.
Yes. There's so many schedules and so many forms. With CPP being split into basic and enhanced now. All the line numbers have changed in the past few years.
Yeah.
Like they're all 5 digits now instead of 3. They ran out of place to put new, like they ran out of numbers to put new lines. So they had to go to a 5-number system to make room for new lines coming in.
So it's so excellent that there's someone like you out there that can help families with this stuff, because it is, like you said, it's a life skill, and it's something that a kid should get help with. And as a parent, I know, like I I don't do my own tax returns, so I couldn't really help my kids do their own.
Yeah. Especially with some of the changes that are coming in relation to all the COVID benefits.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Heaven help you if you report those on the long lines.
Yeah. Okay. All right. How can
There's
people, sorry, go ahead.
there's just tax returns, especially with COVID, are just too dynamic right now.
Yeah.
Unless you really, really know what you're doing,
Yeah.
it is so easy to make a mistake now.
Yeah. How can people find you and hire you? We're going to link to your website in your email.
Yes. So there'll be a link to my email and website. Those are the best ways to make initial contact with me. So just send me a contact form or an email, and I will get back to you the instant I can.
Awesome. And one other important question that I haven't asked is, how soon should people be contacting you about their tax returns?
Ideally, I would have
Yeah.
been starting to talk to people about 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Okay.
It
All
is
right.
never too early to start planning for your tax return.
So don't wait until you get the T4s or whatever yeah. Just reach out now.
Yes.
Or yesterday.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to me today about taxes and teens. Parents will really appreciate all that information.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah, there sure is. We've been talking to Jon Law today from JL Bookkeeping, and actually he'll be back next week as well. So thanks a lot, John.
Have a good day.
You too.